Hey, it's Charlie Ray, and we are making these hand warmers today. So let's get started. You're going to need some number 4 yarn for your main color and a number 2 lace for your trim. Scissors, and if you want to use a needle instead of a crochet needle, you can do that. You'll need a 4.5-inch hook, and you'll also need a 3.5-inch hook for the lace. As always, if you want to write your pattern down for future hand warmers, pencil and paper. We're going to get started with a number 4 yarn and a 4.5-inch hook. So I'm making these for a teenage girl with pretty small hands. So I'm starting out with 24 chains. You should make your initial set of chains and make sure that it fits around your wrist to see how many you need. Once you are ready to go to the next row, count to your 3rd stitch and you are going to double crochet into that stitch, but we're going to go into the bottom instead of the top of the loop. Now we're just going to double crochet across the rest of the chain. Now that I'm at the end of the first row, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. Now we are going to chain 2 more stitches and we are going to front post double crochet. So we're going to go in through the first stitch and out through the next. Pull up a loop and you're just going to double crochet as you normally do. And now we'll do a back post double crochet. This first one counts as the first back post, and then we just did the front post. So in order to do the back post, we need to go into that very next stitch and out of that one, but we come from the back instead of the front. So yarn over and bring your needle up from behind through the stitch, through the next one, yarn over and pull through. Then you are going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, the way you normally do with a double crochet. So you are going to continue doing this, alternating all the way down, front post, back post. And then I'll show you what to do when you get to the other side. You just continue on down and do the whole row. When you get to the end, chain 3 and then turn, and this is going to count as this post. So you're going to be doing the same post on top of the one you're doing. What I mean by that is if it's in the front, do it in the front. If it's in the back, do it in the back. So this next one is in the back. So we'll have the stitch behind the needle. And this next one is in the front, so then we'll have the stitch in front of the needle. And you keep going in this way until, of course, you get to the end of the row. Now at the end, you can still front or back post it, so it's in the back, so we're gonna put the stitch behind the needle. If it were in the front, we would do it that way. So anyway, the stitch goes behind the needle, we pull it up and finish out the double crochet. So you just need to make however many rows you want for the length you want the wrist to be. In this case, I did 4 rows. And then you stitch the sides together using either your needle, or you can just use your crochet hook to slip stitch the sides together like I'm doing here. Once you've come to the end, you can cut that yarn and either weave in your tails, or you can just hold them down and weave them in as you crochet when we get to the other part. Again, I know this is small, but she has small hands. So on the side that you ended with the front and back post, just pick a spot and go ahead and reattach your number 4 main color yarn. Then you are going to single crochet in that same stitch. Then you're going to attach your stitch marker and single crochet into the next stitch and single crochet in that same stitch again. So the first 2 stitches after the first one will have 2 single crochets. Next, you just crochet around until you get close to the other side, and then we're going to do another increase single crochet stitch. So now about 2 or 3 stitches before you get to the stitch marker, you are going to do an increase stitch. If you are doing a larger size hand warmer, I would do 2 single crochet increases and possibly 3 depending on the size you want for your thumb space. Then you are going to single crochet into the stitch that has the stitch marker without slip stitching, because we are going to do the rest of this in the round. So single crochet for an entire row, and then when you get back to the stitch marker, you can either move the stitch marker up if you want to keep track of your rounds. Just take it off and put it in that same stitch one row up. Personally, I like to go ahead and take it off and then just continue with my rounds. So that's how I will be doing mine. So you're going to make a couple of just regular crochets to get back to the stitch that your stitch marker was in. Then we're going to start doing the moss stitch. So chain one, skip one single crochet, and single crochet into the next stitch. Chain one, skip one single crochet, and crochet into the next stitch. You're going to continue this all the way around. And the pattern will start to form as the rows pile up. You will start to see that you have these spaces where you chained one, and once you get all the way around and it's back at the other end, instead of skipping one, you will chain into the spaces that are made from the pattern. So you go into that single crochet chain space, and you keep doing that all the way around. You want to keep going until it reaches the point where your thumb connects to your hand or where your lower thumb knuckle bone is. As you can see, that one side has a flat edge and the other side has a little bit of a curve for your thumb. If you need more space, it'll just come out a little further, but you should still have a flat side on the other side. When you get to your second glove or hand warmer, I suggest putting it up against the other one to double check and make sure that they are symmetrical and evenly sized. So now we're going to do the thumb hole. You're going to be skipping two chain spaces in the pattern in order to do this. But first, you're going to want to chain between 3 and 4 stitches in order to make sure your glove fits properly and there's space for your thumb. After you've chained the number that you want, skip 2 chain spaces, and in the next one, single crochet. Then you will chain 1 and continue on around with your pattern. We are now working on the rest of the hand portion. When you come back around to the other side, you'll have this chain that we made for your thumb space. So we're going to continue the same stitch. We will just have to stitch into the chain instead of into the space. So you're stitching in every other one, which it may be the very first one or it may not, depending on how many stitches that you have. But once you come to the chain for your thumb, just skip one as normal and then chain into the spaces and continue on to complete the hand portion of your hand warmer. You'll continue making rounds until you reach your knuckle or to whatever point you want your hand warmer to end. I only needed 2 rows for this one because, again, it's a small hand warmer. So in order to finish off, you are just going to single crochet back over to where the thumb hole is, because that's pretty much where we started our rows. And then you are going to slip stitch into a chain and just bind off there. So after a quick double check on the length, it's time to work with our smaller yarn and add some more delicate details to these hand warmers. So at the top, attach your yarn anywhere. You are going to start off with a single crochet into one of the spaces. Then you are going to chain 3, single crochet into the same space, then you are going to single crochet into the next 2 chains. Now we are just going to repeat that same thing again. So into the chain space, 1 single crochet, 3 chains, and a second single crochet, and then single crochet into the next 2 chains. You are going to continue doing this all the way around, and I'll come back and show you how to finish off the lace trim. So, okay, the way I like to do it is to put the needle through the stitch from the inside coming out, and then pull that through to the back. Then you can just bind off inside, and it's a little easier to weave in inside. Next, we are going to work on the thumb. So you may or may not want to have a trim on the thumb. In this case, we are adding it, so you are going to just connect anywhere around, and it's really simple. You are just going to put 2 single crochets into each single crochet that is going around the thumb. And don't forget about the space as well. When you get to the end, you're just going to slip stitch that together. You can go ahead and cut that yarn off and weave that end in. So we're almost done with the glove, guys, but we still have one more piece to add, and that is this strap. This can be functional or non-functional. You're still using your 3.5 inch hook, and you're still using your number 2 yarn. So chain 20 stitches, or however many it takes to get the length that you need to go across your wrist. Only half of your wrist, because it's just on one side, unless of course you want yours on both sides. You can do that as well. Then you are going to double crochet in the third chain from the hook and all the way down till you get to the end. Once you get to the end, you will see you have one flat side and one side that has a curved edge. So this is actually all we have to do for the strap. You can use these little holes to fit on a button. I actually couldn't find any buttons that I liked, so I'm temporarily tacking mine down. So I add a little extra in order to sew the strap on, and then I just pull that through. And then you can use your yarn needle. In this case, I ended up using a metal one. I don't think it matters. To go ahead and sew that down onto your glove. You want to have the round side of the strap going towards the pinky side of your hand. So you're going to attach this at the thumb. I like to put mine right over the spot where the 2 single crochet rows are before we start the pattern stitch. And it might be a good idea to tack it on with kind of a box crisscross pattern, but you can sew it on any way you like. Again, I'm just tacking mine on quickly today until I find some buttons that I want to use to finish this pattern. Once you've sewn it on, you can tie up your ends and weave them in. Add your button at this time if you have one, or just tack the other side down if you are not adding a button. So now we have a pair of hand warmers. I can just weave in the ends and they're all done. Let's see them in action. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like or subscribe if you would like to see more crochet and other soon to be coming crafty videos. Thanks for watching. Bye.